Hello, and welcome to another episode of In Real Life with Edrina. My name is Edrina. I am the owner and accountant here at Accounting by Edrina. And in today's episode, we have a super special guest. Her name is Melanie, and she has been a mentor, a business consultant to me for over the past 5 years. I've known her for longer than 5 years, maybe 10 years or so. But I'm so excited to finally have these conversations on video. We normally talk about all sorts of things related to business, nonprofits, data, systems, things like that in our free time. And so those are the kinds of things that we like to discuss. And I finally have it recorded on video. She is a wealth of knowledge. And so just buckle up for these conversations. In our first video, we're going to be talking specifically about thinking strategically in your business. And so we'll kind of dive into what that means, and we'll just take it from there. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. And next week, we're going to have the second episode of this recording with Melanie, and I'm so excited about this. Let's jump right in. Welcome, Melanie. I'm so glad that we were able to make this opportunity to record our conversation. And I just was wondering if you could tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, kind of like your background, and how you kind of like, I was going to say evolved and developed.
It feels like that a little bit. Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Sure. Look, my background is in accounting, and my undergrad was in accounting. And I have a degree in that. And then I decided I didn't want to do that right out of school. So I ended up going into student affairs for 20 years or so, working in higher education, in residential and Greek life, and then as a dean of students. So really different work. And I have a master's degree in higher education administration. And then I decided I didn't want to do that anymore and went back to my original roots and got my MBA in finance, and have been working in finance for the last couple of decades. So mostly working my way from, those entry-level position in accounting and finance, and now a chief financial officer with a small interlude of consulting along the way. So that kind of gives you a little background of what I've done. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I kind of think about when I think about like your trajectory is just how strategic everything has been. I think everything is like, as far as your background is concerned, everything's been intertwined with each other. And I think your expertise has just been building upon each experience. And so, based off of that kind of background, I wanted to talk a little bit more specifically about how business owners and small business owners, entrepreneurs, can think a little bit more strategically when it comes to starting a business and building a business. I know a lot of people are in the beginning phases of their business, and I think it's just helpful to think in terms of like how you approach having a strategy and what that means as far as like building your business.
Right. It's funny you say that, because you'll hear the word strategy and people will give you advice. You really need to have a good strategy. And if you're like me, you're thinking, well, what does that actually really mean? So what I always do is I start with a definition. Okay, let's see what Webster's or Oxford Dictionary says. And so let me read this to you.
Absolutely.
A strategy is a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major or overall aim. Okay, so that tells me something. It's very simple. It's a plan. I think one of the things when you think about strategy, I think a plan can be something as setting maybe 3 goals that you want to achieve, or you might have a specific goal around marketing yourself more or generating more revenue. But whatever it is, it could be you sitting down and starting to outline that. One of the worst things that I've seen over the years is creating this 40-page strategic plan.
Yes.
and it sits on a shelf and collects dust.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you don't want that. You want something
Yeah.
that's really specific,
Yeah.
very actionable.
Yeah.
And, there's tons and tons of research out there about goal setting and the impact that writing those goals down can
Mhm.
really have.
Mhm.
And I honestly, I'm a skeptic about all that sort of thing, but I would say, um, evidence for me that when I have done that in those moments of my life, and I can't say that I've consistently written goals down. It could be something as simple as a checklist, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
here's my list of things I'd like to do today,
Yep. Mhm.
or my intentions. You might hear that word, but
Mhm.
really a strategy. Um, it's pretty basic when you're starting out. It's how am I going to market myself? How much money am I interested in making? Is this something that's going to continue to be on the side of my main work, or is this something I'd like to transition into full time, and it's just going to take me a little time to do that while I have we call it a W-2 job, right, while I'm still working for somebody else. So that plan, you can get help with it from other people, but I don't think you need to. I think you can go online and find some really simple strategic plans that can say, marketing, the finances, how you're going to operate. Are you going to sit at your desk at home? Are you going to drive your car? What are the things that you're going to do operationally to make your business successful? And, just putting that down on paper is really what a strategy is all about. And then thinking about those goals, like, for example, maybe in the next, 3 years, I'd like to have, you know, 25 customers or whatever your goals. You might want more, but whatever your goals are, that would be a great intention to put in that plan.
One of the things that I really appreciate about you is how you approach the question. So, for example, you are saying, I have, so this is the initial question, but I have 10 other questions that I need to ask in order to get to the answer. And you also think in terms of backing into like a problem. So, like, you're saying in 1 year, if I want to have 25 clients,
Mhm.
what do I need to do to get to that point? So
Right.
those are some of the things that I've noticed about you over the years, that that's how you approach situations and problems and questions. And I really appreciate that,
Thank you.
because I think it helps me to kind of like develop my thought process as well, starting with the end in mind, and then how do you back into that? I know for me, when I was starting my business, I did exactly what you're talking about. I did my checklist, I created the business plan. But also, when you're that brand new to starting a business, creating a business plan is kind of like foreign to you, because you're like,
Hmm.
I don't know what the components are, but I'm just going to start writing things down and see how it goes. But also, I think a big part of it for me was to consult with people like you who could speak into kind of like how I was thinking in terms of starting my business, building my business, and things like that. So for you, as far as like, how you approach kind of like the next step,
Yeah.
what would be your advice?
Yeah, that's a great point. You're right. I do. You sort of get to the point in your life where you just sort of do those things. You don't really talk about it anymore, but I think one of the things that it doesn't. There's two things I would say. First is you don't know everything, and that's okay.
Yes.
Right. And so I think I had this impression that I had to know everything
Yeah.
about consulting, or if I'm going to implement a new system at work, I have to know. And the answer is I don't. And I think, having the mindset that I'm going to talk to anybody who will talk to me about this. And it's kind of like a numbers game in some way. You're just
Yeah.
going to, some people you talk to aren't really going to be helpful, or maybe they're reinforcing something you already know.
Mhm.
But talk to people who have done it before
Mhm.
and ask them a lot of questions.
Mhm.
And then, making sure you thank them appropriately is always good. And I said there were 2 points. And the other one was about backing into that. And I think that, I think that in that process of you having those conversations, you will gain your list of questions, right? You'll say, I started out asking these 10 questions. And actually those are not the questions anymore. It's really X, Y, and Z. So, I think the second point really is in that process of talking to people, it will change. Your thoughts about what you're going to do are changing. So, if you start out saying, I'm going to, for example, with my work, it was, I'm going to do consulting for nonprofits. Well, that wasn't specific enough. And I didn't have a clear set of goals around what did that really mean. And the second part of that is, is anyone going to pay me to do that? So, so you really have to be flexible in that second, point that I'm making when you're asking those questions. Well, okay, I have some goals about customers, but what am I going to do for them? So I'll stop there, and we can really dive into that idea that your plan will change over time.
Okay, so I really appreciate those 2 points. The first one being, you don't have to know everything. And I think, early on in my career, I felt like you gave me permission to say, like, I don't know, and let me find the answer. Because it's so true. We don't know everything. Like, we know what we're taught in school, like we go get our MBAs and go to grad school, but that is just book knowledge, and it's hardly applicable to like modern day kind of like business. Everything evolves and changes and moves over time. To your second point, like what I thought I knew 5 years ago, is completely different of what my business is going to look like now, or even in 5 years, so it's always, I think, to those points, it's always good to be flexible and kind of like teachable. So like flexible, teachable as you move through your business, as you gain knowledge and have other questions that you want to answer. But I think, when you're first starting your business, going back to that initial goal of what is the question that I'm really asking here? Is it consulting for nonprofits? But how can I get a little more specific with that? So I really appreciate those points in reference to building your business.
Yeah. Well, I think the third one, if I were going to add that in there, you really brought that up, is you need to have somebody who's going to be a champion with you and go along with you in that process, who you value their thoughts, who maybe has been successful in doing that work and can give you and listen, somebody who's going to just listen to you and help you through the process.
Yep. And to that point, you were mentioning about like talking to as many people as you can. And I think that is going to be super helpful. I remember early on, not only was I consulting with you, but I was also consulting with my current boss at the time where I was in my full-time job. Even though it was potentially a conflict of interest, he was still able to kind of like help me develop my thoughts in building my business. And I think that's so crucial. I remember even reaching out to as many people as I could when I started my business and just letting everybody know, okay, I'm open for business. Anyone who needs bookkeeping, let's just do it right away and jump right in. I think sometimes you kind of have to do that too. Like at a certain point, you come up with your questions and you have your plan, you've thought through it strategically, but then at a certain point, you just have to pull the trigger and say, okay, this is the date that I'm going to go, and tell everyone I'm open for business.
And you don't, I think that's right. I think you don't have to have it all figured out.
Yeah.
Right. I think you're right. I think just getting going You don't feel like you have to have all this funding in place. You know, if your business is you can start doing it to see if you like it and then go from there.
Yeah.
But I think like get back to strategy. You know me, I've seen so many things go off the rails because it just even still in my work now, where we sit down something simple as we're trying to solve for a membership problem. How many members do we need, for example? How many customers do we need? And people are like, wait, we really need to, we have all these great ideas and we're going to have these events. And, I'm like, whoa, what, okay, back it up here, take a breath and just think about to what end. You said that, and backing into that, me, Edrina, I'm a bottom line kind of person. What are you trying to accomplish here? Okay, you're trying to gain 100 more customers. Okay, so then let's back into that. And that is strategy. That is part of the process.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that thought process. Wow, that video is jam-packed full of information when it comes to thinking strategically about your business and approaching kind of like how you can grow your business in the long term, especially in the short term, kind of some questions that you need to be asking. I am so glad we got this conversation on video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, and make sure to stay tuned for next week's episode. We're going to be talking all about nonprofits with Melanie. So I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.